Hey guys, Sam Partland from DigiSearch here, and in this video I'm just going to be running you through how pivot tables and slices work with Excel data. So this is essentially the basis of any Excel report I'll be building or showing you how to build. So this is pretty much imperative that you get the basics down pat. Not too hard at all once someone actually shows you how to do it. Like, I was amazed how easy it is to actually do, but I did need someone to actually initially show it to me. So I've got an Excel file here with a year and a bit's worth of Google Analytics data. It's broken down by month alone, year, and then the referring channel of the traffic. And then we've got a couple metrics here, visits, conversions, and a couple others here that I'm not too concerned about. So this is a standard raw file. Then here we've got a blank dashboard that I'll soon have some tables set up for. So coming back to the raw, all you have to do is click inside your raw file here, go up to insert and click on pivot table in the top left. Now what you're going to have to do is click existing worksheet, just quickly tap in the location bit, come over to the dashboard, and now this is where you click wherever you want that table we were just looking at to go. So if we just click here, then we click OK, and voila, you've got yourself a pivot table here set up. Now on the right hand side under pivot table fields, this is where we actually choose what data comes into the pivot table. So this pivot table is connected to that raw sheet. All the data we can bring in is coming directly from that raw sheet, but I guess in a pretty way. So what I'm going to look at is I'm going to look at two separate pivot tables here. So the first thing I'm going to pull in is month. I'm going to go, let's go visits and let's go conversions. So this is a standard pivot table, Jan 14 through to April 15. Now I'm just going to dupe this to show you the other format. So let's get rid of month alone, and year. So in my data prep video, I was just going over how I like to add the month alone, how I like to add the year, just so we can get the year-on-year metrics here. By doing that, it gives me this pivot table format here. Now, as soon as you've inserted a pivot table, there's a couple things here I like to do and I recommend that are done. So you right click the pivot table and you come down to pivot table options. Now, I always turn this off just because it starts messing with your design once you start trying to print things and keeping the design the same each time. So you just want to turn off auto fit column widths on updates. So this means when you change metrics over, it's actually moving the columns and making them bigger and smaller as needed. So I don't like that, so I just turn that one off. And then coming into totals and filters, I always turn off show grand totals for rows. Now this one won't show it, but this one over here will. So you can see here on the right hand side, it's got total sum of visits and total sum of conversions. I have no need for this. I never use it. Like, adding Jan 2014 and Jan 2015 of visits together has no meaning to me within this pivot table. So I always just turn this one off to kind of keep things clean. Turn that off and it goes away. And there you have it. You've got yourself a pivot table with your metrics here. Now there's a heap of customization you can do, but I'll just go into some of the basic things right now. So obviously just by metrics, what you're going to be doing is say visits, and they just come into values. So if I didn't want conversions in here, I just drag conversions out. It goes to just being visits down here. But if I did want conversions, I can just drag conversions down. So you got your rows and then you got your columns. So in this one here, you've obviously got your month alone creating each separate row. And then you've got the year, as said here, the year as each column. So for every year that you've got set up in the raw data, it's going to create a new column here. So if I had 2016 data as well, these two would be 2016, so visits and conversions. But I don't. And then this one, we don't have a column metric because that's just the values. We've only got the month because the month includes both the month and the year. Now, when actually looking at the values themselves, you can actually customize them. So let's have a look at visits here. Just clicking visits, you can go value field settings. So this firstly allows you to name it. So instead of summer visits, you could just do visits. Now, if I hit OK, it's just going to pop up with a little error saying the pivot table name exists. I don't have a clue why it does that, and I haven't really been bothered looking, but I know if you press a space and click OK, it goes away and it lets you do it. So I just go with that. But value field settings, and then you can choose here sum, count, average, max, min, and a few others. So you can actually just do like count, for instance. If I click OK, it'll be 4 because there's 4 channels it's looking at. But I'll just Control Z out of that. But then what you can do down here, you go number format. Then you come up here, you go number. Now, these are all whole numbers, so we don't need decimal places, but I do want the comma for the thousands separated. Kind of make it look a little bit prettier. Click OK again, and there you have it. You got your comma set up right there. And now I'll just quickly do the same thing with the other table. And there we have it, got that both set up. Now, going from here, you can actually also easily filter this data. So these drop downs allow you to select what metrics are there. So you could say untick Jan, Feb, March from this if you just wanted to. And there you go, Jan, Feb, March are gone. So I'm going to put them back on though. And I'll do it in this one, but you can do the same thing using the filters here. So if I drag down, say, month alone for this left chart, you get a filters set up at the top of the pivot table. So I can click this drop down here, and I can either select 1 month, which could just be Jan, and so it will show me the 2 years it's got marked as Jan. Or I can click the select multiple items, and then I can select whatever ones I want. So I might untick April, May, June, for whatever reason, untick them. And it'll be everything except April, May, and June for both years. But I'll clear that. And now what you'll be using this the most for is actually looking at the different data. Going back and having a quick look at the raw here, you can see I've got Jan 14 split out by 4 different channels: organic, paid, direct, and referral. Now I might want to analyze each of them individually. So what I can do here is actually just drag channel into filters. And so by clicking the drop down, I can go direct and click OK, and it will filter these numbers just to whatever has been marked as direct in the raw file. So it's going to add this, and then it's going to add that to this, and ignore all the other ones. And so I could look at organic. And then I could also just quickly separate out paid there, and you can see one versus the other. So I'll just delete this one, and what I'll do is I'll just dupe this, and I'll change this one to organic. So straight away here, you can see by filtering by paid on the left, organic on the right, you can see that there's been 14,000 visits from paid with 44 from organic. 117 conversions from paid with 625 from organic. So it gives you a nice and easy way to filter that raw file quickly. And it doesn't mean you're going back and forward. You're not manually checking anything because it's just pulling straight from this export. And what's even better than that, for the next month, all you have to do is paste in this data. So say you've got May data now, so May 15, bit old, but let's say you got May 15. You add in your May 15 numbers here at the bottom. You come back to dashboard, and then what you have to do is right click this and go refresh. Actually, let me just quickly do something then. I'll go paid organic. Just quickly change this, and I'll be able to show you exactly what I mean. So I've just added the 2 lines of May there, come back to dashboard, and now when I click refresh, it's going to add May to the bottom of both of these. So right click, refresh, and bam, there we go. Now I've obviously copied the exact same data as April, but you can see how easy that was to add a whole new month in. When you've got a couple pivot tables set up, This doesn't make too much of a difference. It's probably easier to just do it manually. But this becomes extremely useful when you've got 15 or you've got 20 different pivot tables referencing the same raw file. Now you could have a heap of different pivot tables controlling graphs and all this other stuff that's on a dashboard of yours. Now just being able to update that number in one location instead of 50 makes it so much easier. Following on from that filtering, we also get something called slices. Now these have to be one of my favorite things to do with pivot tables, because what you can do is you go insert and then you come up to here and you go slicer and you just click that. Now you're pretty much here choosing what you want to filter, and it's going to allow you, instead of clicking down the drop down, you're going to get little buttons you can press. So I'll do a similar thing. I'll just do channel, and you can see here that this is a slicer for that data. So this slicer at the moment is showing up paid because that's what we've selected in this channel drop down. But what I can do is I can clear the slicer. It's going to show you all, and it's going to show you all the data. But I can click direct, organic, paid, referral, and it shows it to you right then and there. It's a lot easier than using the drop down as well. And it's a lot easier for, say, a client to interact with it if you're actually sending this file out to a client. And it certainly makes the file look a lot more professional. And then speaking of looking more professional, there is one other thing we can be doing with pivot tables that I highly advise you do. So pivot tables and slices both allow a bit of customization in the colors and how they look. So Excel gives you a default set, which are all right, and they're great to base your own designs off. And what you can do is you just click on the pivot table, you come up to design, and then you can go through all their pre-given designs. So you can kind of choose a few different layouts and work out what one best suits you. I personally normally go for one of these sorts of ones, and then I change the colors up. And then same with the slicer. You click on the slicer, you go to options, and then you got a few different designs to choose from. Now what you can do is you just right click it and you go duplicate, and then it comes up giving you all these options. Now I'm not going to go into this, but essentially what you do is you go through each of these and you add your own formatting. So you add your own borders, which is obviously the outline of it all. You add your own fillings, so you're changing the colors up where it's unselected, where it's selected, where it's unselected without data, but then it's hovered and unselected without data, and you'll get the gist of it once you start playing with it. But what you essentially end up with is a lot more professional looking design out of it. Now, by making it more professional, you can obviously sell it for a bit more because a client might think it's worth a bit more, and it does kind of show that you have put a bit more work into it. Now, this obviously doesn't look that professional, but what I can do is I'll show you this basic one I did. Now, you can see here that here's a rough table design, just nice and basic in the green, which I've then mimicked in this one here. And then I've done this slicer here, so you can see how I was a bit more on brand with the slices. So the paid, referral, organic, etc. The colors kind of match the brand that it was being created for. So you get endless possibilities here. And now a great thing about this is you only have to create the designs for these once. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this existing slicer from this other sheet over, and then I'm going to copy this table design over, this pivot table design over. So I'll just grab both of them, copy them over, and now what I can do is click the slicer, click options, and I can select that design to use on this set of data. And then same with the table, I can go design, just go back to the top, and there we go there. It's copied that design over for me, and then I can get rid of this table. Oops, daisy. So you just have to have that slicer design and that table design in each file once. As soon as you copy that design into the spreadsheet, it can mimic that going forward. So it's a great way to design once and then constantly reuse. So that it does take 15-20 minutes sometimes to design them by the time you actually go through all the options available. And then by the time you actually match up all the different colors with custom and client colors. But once it's done for good, so you don't have to worry about it. Okay guys, well that's pretty much my summary of pivots and slices, and I hope I've given you a good overview of them all. Feel free to leave a comment below the video. I'd love to hear any feedback you've got, and don't forget to subscribe because there'll be plenty more videos coming out in the future. Thanks, guys.